Alright. Just watched the first couple of scenes of Endgame. And Steve Rogers sounded like Loki. That was really dumb. How's it going, viewer? I'm back. I'm back and ready to... Alright. So, for real... I haven't watched the end of it. I don't know what actually happens, people. I just know that there's some bad acting involved. So, very emotionless for some reason. Almost traumatized. I mean, you don't have to, like, subscribe with that account, so just, like... I mean, that's cool. That's awesome. I'm glad you're watching. But, you don't have to subscribe with that account. I don't want more than one person to... I mean, not more than one person. I don't want people using other accounts on my thing, because... on my, my profile, because it'll give boosted numbers, and I don't really care about boosted numbers. I mean, it's cool if you watch, but just like subscribe with like this account or with that account, but not both. So just. But we're gonna see if we can lure some people online. All right. He's going that way. Almost got him. I am in no way can really emulate an aimbot unless I'm like really focused, but that's the reason why I don't, because I gotta like mess myself up and use my brain for other stuff, so I don't want to like take this game too seriously. There's a car. Yeah. Hopefully there's no one running after it. Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't know of him. I've heard some of his stuff, but he didn't really seem to have that much originality when he was around. But, I mean, it sucks that he died, but... And I know he was, like... But also, too, sometimes people do that as shit on purpose, which kind of gets on my nerves. They kind of, like, they make a career, and then they kill themselves just so they'll remember. Nice. Yeah. Like they set up their own deaths because they're suicidal. It's like a lot of celebrities have actually done that. Like The song by Chance the Rapper actually goes into it, as a lot of people in California who used to be celebrities actually killed themselves because they were. It's not like a suicide pact thing, but it was more like a dark web thing. They got on the internet and they started seeing a bunch of crazy shit, and then it got in their head and they started messing around with like certain chemicals and stuff like that, and they started believing shit that it wasn't really real, and they started like it's like almost like cultish shit. So it's like it's really insane. But sorry, I mean, you're a 13-year-old, so I mean you should know about some of this stuff, but you shouldn't know everything because it's really just not that important. And it's also mind altering too, so you don't really want to know anything about it. It's like you start to believe things like, oh my gosh, we are all connected. No, we're not. That's dumb. That's really dumb. Don't do that. Don't think we're all connected, because when you do actually like put on the whims, or actually are on the whims of something like that, that's like that stuff. Sorry, I kind of offended you, dude. If I did, it was an accident, but that's kind of what happened to XXX Tentacion. He kind of got it in his head there was a whole bunch of different stuff that he didn't know about, and a whole bunch of different stuff that people were covering up, when it's actually just individuals doing really fucked up things. Or sometimes even actors that want facelifts after they do whatever acting job they do, and you look like a different person. So just realize some of it's fake, most of it's pretty much not real. Yeah. So just sorry I ran you off, dude. Uh I think there are a lot of times though that people don't really think they really they think so hard that they believe that something's real, and they're so like there's a theory that ionic bonds and a bunch of different kinds of new technology can change the air around you, or create kind of a vacuum, so to speak, and like things like not teleportation, but like flight, or ideas that basically, like, say for instance, if you could fly, like realize that you're touching, if your mind is kind of like touching everything around you. It's like, it's not like the science behind it is a lot more gross than you actually like really understand. Like, you'll get really dirty, and like you'll start to get sick, and then if you're susceptible to change really quickly, if your mind is susceptible to change, then you could go like completely fucking insane. Like that kid on Brightburn, that movie is actually about what happens to people sometimes when they experience a mind altering event, and they hide in their persona, and anything that changes their worldview or tries to change their worldview, they try to attack. And it's like Children of War, basically. A lot of baby boomers went through it. They had their parents tell them about a lot of different things that happened, and through vicariously feeling like something happened, they had to go through something, or they had dreams of things that people told them, and or they had things that people told them, and they believe that that in itself can cause traumatization of kids of genocide and war and slavery and all that shit. So there's a lot of different mental elements that go into it, and there's a lot of different people that kind of ignore it because they believe that if they ignore it, then it'll go away, and that's not the best way to look at it. But it's also not the worst way either sometimes, because if you get caught up in somebody's little game, you can fall prey to the same stuff that people actually went through, and a lot of people that are hurt sometimes will just want people to experience their pain, and that's why a lot of times America would stay out of wars but then talk about it because they want people to know about it, but they don't want people to get hurt. And a lot of times where most politicians would invest in certain businesses that they know are going to flourish in the long run, no matter what kind of like excitement or any kind of messed upness is going to happen, or what kind of stuff, basically, so to make the economy kind of bulletproof. So, but he's gone. But I'm still just talking to myself. It's really great. It's good to get this kind of stuff out. Also, there are a lot of things that other governments do as well that help the not so fortunate as well. A lot of things the Indian government has done for its people is pretty good, and a lot of things that the Chinese government has done for its people is pretty awesome. But they seem to think that they're right no matter what, and a lot of times the underlying factors have to do with people who have certain belief factors who reside in those places that are suggesting that other people are kind of messed up. But also too, I guess it's like having, like, in England, they kind of fell prey to like that if anyone remembers that scene in what's the word, in Game of Thrones, they had the girl in the beginning, the first season, the Maze, I think, or Maze Williams, I think. Yeah, Maze Williams. She goes to a place and she's ordered to kill someone, and that place just so happens to have an actors guild, or people who are actors or paid actors by the queen or by the company who are meant to put things in a certain light. And that's the reason why I think a lot of people actually think the way they do today sometimes, is because of the way that actors portray themselves when they're playing characters. Like, say for instance, the scene in the Queen, the movie, the about the band. That was the first tape I listened to, and I researched into their name, and he was kind of an asshole. Like he was kind of an asshole. He kind of was self-centered and self-absorbed, and a lot of dudes like that kind of get in people's faces and stuff like that, and cause a lot of conflict. Not exactly conflict, but they make people uncomfortable, and that can cause like divides on what fans actually think about everything, and a lot of people play games when they're not like these games, emotional games that are bent on on ruining someone's reputation. Like sometimes people only become celebrities to be able to discredit somebody else. Like oh shit, I forgot the example. Like Eminem. That's the reason why I think he owes his success to a lot of his anger and a lot of stuff that he does. I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't have an okay message, but I also know that the stuff that he does and the way that he does it kind of it speaks volumes about where he actually came from, and a lot of times that isn't like the best opinion to actually bring forth. Sometimes you need to realize that like your pain isn't everything around you, you know, or else you can drive people away, including your family members and things like that. Regardless of whether or not they have bad habits. My dad had bad habits. My mom had some bad habits, and a lot of dudes I know that my dad knows that had bad habits, and I was never affected by them. I mean, not to my knowledge, at least. The only reason why is because my dad used to make us sit. Like I think he kind of appealed to the the Japanese that don't allow kids to speak with their parents when they're speaking to other adults. Like the kids take a subservient role, and a lot of times the reason why they don't they don't say things to you because they're still going through the pain of their what they did to themselves, basically, and they're afraid that they'll project that pain into words and try to basically throw them at you to like to make you get away from them. And then that's a lot of times what happens with older generations, and the reason why they don't want to put things on other people is because they're afraid that they can't handle it, or they're afraid that what they will say will literally kill them on the inside, and they'll be dead as far as emotions go. So there's a lot of times where kids are thought of as a subservient role, and that's like for like messed up governments that have people that control it that are messed up. But there's a lot of people that don't really know that that not everything is like so changeable, you know. It's like there are people that are actually good out there that are nice, and they're from all different cultures and stuff like that. And I think that's the reason why a lot of different people like promoted those genocides, because they wanted to get rid of those people so they could actually blame someone and have them get mad and be more manipulatable. But that's not neither here nor there. It's not really a conspiracy. It's more like just shitty people doing shitty stuff, and they can say what they want to about it. It doesn't make me believe anything in the bullshit. And that's why when I first came out and did this, I made fun of conspiracy theories. Like, I made fun of all of them. I tried to, at least. On my Facebook, there's a whole bunch of them. But hey, if you want to check out my Facebook, it's Joseph Anthony Rodriguez. I'm really stupid, and I make fun of jokes a lot, and I make fun of people sometimes, and I also think that for the most part, a lot of different dictators are going to wind up having their own people murder them because of the way that they're treating them right now and the way that they think. But understandably so, they don't realize that that the more that people they see die and the more excuses they come up with. It's basically like Julius Caesar. When you become a totalitarianistic republic, and that's a republic. That's a totalitarianistic version of it. So that's what that was, and that's why they stabbed him, because he's a douchebag. So a lot of times the people that lead are the ones that get people into serious amounts of trouble, and it's not the difference. But the difference between good people and bad people is the fact of not what I can do, but what I will do. Most of the time, people think that that everyone has within them the ability to do pretty much anything, but that's only at first glance. It's only the at first glance. Like, you see that person who's doing something, and you're like, wow, that dude would probably be really good at blah, 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 blah. But sometimes, some people are working so little or so hard that sometimes they're not able to really see themselves, but kind of like living, not the shell of a former life, but like living under someone else's shadow can be kind of obstructing and very off-putting. The difference between a lot of people who are good and a lot of people who are bad is not what they can do, but what they will do. Remember that. That's like numero uno. It's like the way that Kim Jong-un decides of what he wants to do and how he wants to run his country, basically into the ground, and then ask for more help. It's pretty damning to his people, even though they know or they see what they're doing and they basically see what's going on. It's like a lot of times they really don't know what their people are actually getting. They don't know how their people are actually getting it, and they really don't know. So a lot of times when certain things happen, the public is usually informed first because of something that actually happened, and because of leaders and a lot of different people doing a whole bunch of different stuff. There are a lot of teams and people who get information out, and that's the reason why people have those pictures of anything at all. The empty cities, all those other different things, they're expecting a boost or a surge in something because of the numbers that they boosted, and that's the reason why, is because they think that that everything is irradiated, and or they're able to control some sort of thing. I don't know. It's just really dumb to think that, because but to be more specific, it's like they think that by being confident, they're controlling the will of other people. By being confident, they think they're controlling the will of other people. I'm eating plantain chips. They are delicious. Most of what people don't realize about their people is that they get this notion of self-discovery, and a lot of leaders in totalitarianistic roles don't realize that their people are actually smarter than them. And once they realize it, they're like, how do we change that? How can we manipulate these people into believing anything? Because, and one, that is destined to fail. The reason why it's destined to fail is not because of anything foretold or anything written. It has everything to do with statistics. Everything to do with statistics. A lot of people buff numbers in North Korea to say they're doing something that they're not doing. A lot of times they don't show the farms because most of the time they're getting it from outside sources, and they're basically expecting Europe to sink. Like Africa is splitting up, kind of. Understandably so. That's the only reason why it's splitting, is because a lot of people are getting water, and they think that it's like poisoned water or something like that. I don't know. They're just really superstitious, and you wind up starving to death sometimes when you do that. But most of the time, I'm gonna bring it back a few pages. And show you the no, let's see. There's no such thing as omnipresence. That much I believe. There's no such thing as really knowing, like, anything. As far as science goes, you can only take a snapshot of something. That's basically what you're doing in science. A lot of times they think that something's going to be a certain way, and it winds up not being that way. Like, the only reason why actual stuff is happening all over the world is because seismic events are creating air pockets. They're usually low pressure, but that's the reason why. And water is filling those pockets usually with a lot of stuff. People don't realize they're actually like a whole bunch of different things that are filling in with water too. As like, yeah, like a bunch of craters, a bunch of stuff. There are a lot of different
things that people do in big cities in the desert, and they don't realize that they're slowly poisoning our water themselves. The reason why sometimes people get bags under their eyes is either they're really tired, or, like me, I'm really tired. Mostly of everybody's bullshit. But that's the reason why those bags happen under your eyes. Like there's a dude I know on YouTube, and I don't want to talk directly about him, but there are a lot of reasons why people get that. It's not because of any like contaminant. It's because of friction. It's like if you cry a lot and then wipe your eyes, like you can get scar tissue under this right here, and this stays wet. So when you get when you cry a lot, or if you're really filled with liquid, your eyes get really dark underneath there. Or if you cried at all, and like a month goes by, and then because men can go through a stage of emotional like instability sometimes. It's called male menopause. That shit's real. It'll get to you. You'll start seeing a whole bunch of different emotional stuff that you like either dreamt about and you'll start getting really emotional. It's because a lack of emotion can kind of shut you off from your what's the word? A lack of emotion can shut you off from parts of your brain that send you testosterone. So a lot of times people don't realize that being a little bit more emotional or a little bit more sensitive about something can kind of bring back those emotions. A lot of people don't realize that though, because they like to stay emotionally blank sometimes because they're insensitive and cruel. Cruella de Vil. Cruella de Vil. If she doesn't scare you, then something else will. I don't know. Shit. I was trying to do zigzags. Alright, so I need my lighter. But yeah. But I think that if you like a lot of different movies like Endgame and stuff like that, then I mean it's probably something you can get into, but it's just, I don't know, it's kind of falling off for me because I've seen that storyline for so long, I guess. I've seen the comics, I've read the comics, and I see that storyline in my head, and I'm just like, it's like everything seems so boring now because there's just not that many people in the freaking MCU, like, that are readily known in the MCU, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it really does suck. I want to see a lot more. It would be a lot more diverse, and there would be a lot more people if it would just like, if there were if the battles were bigger and stuff like that. Leaving the match. There are a lot of times where I just get kind of like bored of stuff too, so I'll probably watch it in theaters still because it's pretty cool. But I'll probably have to watch it in theater to actually get the full experience because I'm just kind of like off-put by the fact that I can't, like, you know, just watched a couple scenes. It was like a trailer-esque sort of thing. I think it was. Saw it on the internet. So. It's okay, bro. I just don't think that there's any kind of like I don't think there's any like, it's not a resolution. It's like it's an end game. Like it's it's okay, I guess. But if they had more people, I think they'd have more dialogue, and they don't have more dialogue. They think that the more people there is, it would like complicate things, but I don't think so. And the same thing with the politicians. Same way with the current state of our political mood. People say that it's like, oh, we're protecting the country from terrorists, and I'm just like, that's cool. Also, I mean, like, it wouldn't be terrorists if you didn't like steal and break all their shit. So, just saying. Or I mean, they blamed America for like a whole bunch of stuff that like some individuals did that were off duty, and a lot of different stuff, and so many dudes that were like not supposed to be there because they weren't trained professionally, and a lot of dudes who just thought that it wasn't things or people, they weren't real or something. They got it in their head that they were just figments of their imagination, and a lot of dudes were exactly insane thinking all that shit, and it had a lot to do with drugs, and it had a lot to do with bullshit, and it had a lot to do with people thinking that something was controlling them, MK Ultra, all that other shit. Everybody thought that it was everyone, and it's like, no, it was just a couple of fucked up prisoners and people who needed and wanted and sometimes volunteered as well for different things, for reduced sentences. And a lot of times the only reason why it went wrong was because they were using the wrong dosages, because they were using the metric system most of the time. A lot of different governments did that, and then they realized that that it's really easy to confuse the metric, and when you're in the metric system, it's really easy to get confused when you're in the metric system. And it's not something to cover up anything. It's just really, really hard to know exactly what kind of thing you're actually doing in the metric system. When it comes down to like inches and miles, as far as centimeters and kilometers and decimeters, or yeah, it's like a big difference. There's a lot of steps in between, so there's not a lot of steps in between when it comes to American measurements. See, a lot of times scientists do math in their heads. Even when they're doing stuff that involves a really big amount of something. And it's not the fact that they did some sort of terrible thing or fucked up horribly. And some of them did fuck up horribly, but and I'm not making excuses, because there are some fucked up things that I still don't agree with when it comes to shit like that.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm okay with fucked up things. You know? I'm trying to say that it's easier to move on because, and it is always easier to move on rather than dwelling on the past and sometimes hurting your future, but also to realizing that everything makes a reflex. You have to really relax when you stop, or when you do something, like realize that you're going for 8 hours or 9 hours and you're sitting down constantly. Or I just never thought that 9 to 5 job would ever be for me. Or a 5 to 9 job, or a 2 to 11 job, or any of those jobs. They just never really appealed to me in any way. I always wanted to make my own way and make my own stuff, because it's easy to create something, but it's really, really hard to be able to actually sell it to people. It takes a lot of will, it takes a lot of gall, and it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of patience as well. Not like what like not like a lot of patience, but it takes a pretty good amount of endurance and shit. I should have freaking reloaded before I did that. Oh well. Most of the time, I try to stay away from all that stuff. All those things that I see. I have no proof, so it's like I was never there. I'm taking a break.
It's alright. I'm back. Most of the time I think that I think that people don't realize what they do sometimes, but does anyone realize that like an infinite amount of matter means an infinite amount of possibilities? You know? Realizing that. I wonder if people actually realize that. Most of the time. Most of the time they don't. It's like, oh my god, if I only had $70 million, I would just be so set. She's like, yeah, if you had your same mindset, but you wouldn't have your same mindset because you'd have $70 million. Your possibilities would change. The possibility of you getting a Ferrari would change. The likelihood of you gambling every single cent away would increase. And also, the possibility of infinite amounts of matter means an infinite amount of energy, which means it's just like you never know where that matter or energy may come from. Something that's food to you might not be food to another form of species, you know? It's like dogs can't eat chocolate. I mean, they can eat the plant cacao, but they can't eat the processed form of chocolate. You know why? It's not because of the milk. It's because in the grinding down of certain things, a lot of metal oxides get put in there. We as humans can process those metal oxides with the tiny bacteria inside of our stomach. Because in certain times of need, we chewed on a lot of different stuff like that. Like, say for instance, like if for a certain farmer or something like that, he'll chew on the back of a grassroot leaf. You know why he does that? You know what he or she does that? To test and see if they get sick. Either there's too much fertilizer on the ground, and it's too fertilized, which can yield big plants, but not enough nutrients in the plants. And or the pH balance of the soil is off, and if you taste it and it tastes really, really tangy, it means it's an animal territory, and you're not supposed to grow there because it's usually protected by law. Usually. Most of the time it's protected by law. And a lot of people don't know, because there's a lot of animal feces and what people would call endo weed and marijuana and a lot of different plants and a whole bunch of different grains. A lot of feces. It's the reason why people don't really understand the whole concept of do you have irrigation tunnels? Like, no. Do you have pH balance machines that have to run on a certain track, or have to be laser guided? And if you mess with the soil and the ground, and it contaminates the groundwater, that's even worse. Because a lot of dudes, this problem is probably happening right now in Russia, is their groundwater is contaminated with radiation, and they don't know why it's not leaving it. Because they think that over time, it stops. But understandably so, it changes the ground forever. Like, it changes it forever. Like, all the time. And that's why it can reduce the amount of nutrients in the food by a lot. And it's like some people think that like I think there's just like belief that somehow people have like godlike powers. So you have people believe in like American Gods. You ever seen the American Gods? That whole TV show, and the realization of the fact is that most of the time I think people don't realize is that kings cover up their own death sometimes. Like a lot of kings back in the old days of like Ireland and a whole bunch of different stuff like that, they would cover up the fact that their king died, either from poison or overheating or exhaustion or sickness, plague, stuff like that. They would cover up the fact that their king had gone to a different place, contracted a virus or a disease, and died. Because they weren't used to the environment there, and they got sick, like they usually do. But they didn't think that they would get sick like they usually do, because their immunobalances didn't like. It's like people who like isolate for a really long time. They don't realize they're kind of, or isolate like I do sometimes. But then like I'm seeing a bunch of stuff about travel because somehow they think that I want to leave this place. Like, I mean, I want to leave this place eventually, but I want to go to a different kind of structure, one that I'm kind of begging for. I'm begging for a desert kind of like Arizona, or kind of like Nevada, or kind of like something like Utah or something like that, with less Mormons probably. Not like I don't want any Mormons to. Yeah, I don't wish any ill will towards Mormons. I want to go to a place where it's warm all year round, kind of, or cold at night and warm all year round. It's the reason why a lot of times places are warm and then cold is because there are underwater tunnels. Underground tunnels of pockets of water, rushing water. People don't understand this. Or riverbeds and stuff like that they keep the ground cool. And a lot of times the environment is very good. It's very good. But most of the time people don't get where that actually comes from. But I do, because I studied geography and I was really good at it. At least in high school. Oh man, that would have been so cool if I killed him. He probably went to bed. There are so many things that people don't know about. I don't know if he's 13 or not. I think when people find out the actual meaning of stuff, they'll start to see things coming, and wish that they kind of like didn't do what they did, because there's some really cool stuff coming. At least it's what I like to hope for. It's probably going to put a plug in all everybody else's games. Not in any games whatsoever, but everybody's kind of bullshit games they play on people around town. Oh, not exactly around town, but a lot of times I think people really are good at heart, but there's always stuff that makes you get proved wrong. There's always people you hope to be honorable, and they turn out to be freaking idiots.
And sometimes they're idiots on purpose. Because they're afraid. They're afraid of what might happen. Afraid of what might get out. Or they're afraid of what people might say. And I don't blame them, but just wish sometimes things were easier. People had an easier time trying to make a name for themselves. People can put so much importance on objects. Sometimes it can be they're everything, and my intention, if ever I offended someone, was to diffuse that, to make them feel like they want more importance on themselves, and they should have more importance on themselves, because everyone wants to be that main character sometimes. And when you put somebody else before you, it just feels like it's not right sometimes, and I notice that. So that's why I hang back. So I know that I'm smart. I just know that other people are smart too. And a lot of times to get the actual concept of something and learn something is a lot more pertinent than telling someone about themselves and trying to change their course of their future, because sometimes the importance they put on it isn't as great as something they learned themselves. Especially if you try to tell it to them over and over again. Then they'll really hate you for it, because they're not paying you, so they're more of like, that's why I like to mess with people, because most of the stuff that I say, or most of the stuff that I try to do has some sort of meaning behind it, and once they see the meaning, they appreciate the joke more, I guess, sometimes. And I usually don't explain my jokes a lot. A lot of times the deeper meaning has to do with how existentialism can be the breaker of humankind. That's bullshit. About my jokes, they seem a little bit more down to earth sometimes, so it's an hour and 12 minutes, so I'm gonna go to bed. So you are your own one-person bomb squad. You can diffuse situations that you think are happening. Just remember, if you're not, then sometimes you might need help. Please get therapy. Please help yourself, and please make it better tomorrow. Because no one's going to make it for us. No one ever is going to make it for us.
If you put the responsibility in someone else's shoulders, they'll always have stipulations. So why don't you just tell people that they're mostly good, even if they think they're bad. But their intentions, whether good or bad, will always be seen. And I love you so much to tell you about yourself. And I hate you just as much to make you go home and do it. Go home, try to see your thoughts in your own mind before you play these games, and have a moment of reflection, because if you don't, then your reflection could fade away. Figuratively speaking, not literally. Obviously, that won't happen. Not again. Be yourself, and I'm taking my right medication most of the time. So now I am. So have a good day.